Hey guys, and welcome to Top Channel 101, and today we are starting a new series about making ads in Blender. This is the first video. It's going to be a little bit longer than usual because I'm showing you everything from start to render time. But if you love my content, you can check out my courses. I like the Geometry Nodes course, the Houdini course, and other courses. All links are going to be in the description, including the project files to this one. Thank you for watching. Let's get started. So today we're going to be doing something like this. This is a render from Sketch Visual. I think he uses Cinema 4D or Houdini, I'm not sure, but I have a rock that I downloaded from Sketchfab. So let me see if that could work. Yeah, I think if we use this, I'm not sure about the resolution. Let me find somewhere that is close enough, like here. Let me set up my camera. We're going to use the same aspect ratio, 1080 by 1920. That's the camera aspect ratio. That's the mobile phone aspect ratio. So just use cycles here. And first, let me make sure that there's no light from the world. Expand this a bit. And yeah, so it seems like they have a light from this side here. So let me add that. Just, where is my camera? Let's use about, let me see, how large is my scene? Okay, that's too big. I'm going to scale this down and bring the camera. Yeah, I want those shadows as well. Those directional shadows. I think they make this look a little bit better. And yeah, let's use about 500 for the light. And I also want that dark material. So let me adjust this a bit. So this is our base color. Looks like that. Let's make it a bit darker. Let me use a hue and saturation. Remove most of the color. Let's do about 0.1. That's maybe a little too much. Make it a bit darker. I want it to be a bit reflective. Let me look at the roughness. Doesn't seem like this has any data in it. So this is the metalness. This is the roughness. Just going to use a math node. Now, we don't seem to have a lot of detail from this mesh since it's low resolution. So I'm just going to duplicate it using Shift D and scale it down so that we have some nice high frequency detail, and you can randomize this a bit. Turn on random colors. Yeah, this is a good starting point. Let me save this. 2025 March. Call this speaker, add. Perfect. Okay, so let's make this. Let's model this. It doesn't seem too difficult. We can just start with a circle. We don't need that many vertices. Let's use about 12. We can use a subdivision surface. Let me pause the render for a bit. Can use a subdivision surface and extrude just about here. I'm going to add another loop here, push it out, and just yeah, I think something like that. I can fill this in and just do regular modeling, maybe something like that. And okay, Just grab this extrude fill, and what I'm going to do is come in here and let's add, what is it, a split? Is it a split? Edge split? But we want only sharp edges, and we can have this above the subdivisions, and then I think we can also add with this we can also add a solidify, and I'm going to show you why I'm doing this, and then a bevel after the solidify, so that we can create some nice edge detail. Okay, so now I can turn off the bevel. The bevel angle can be about maybe 60. Okay, so let's first turn off the subdivision, and let's come in here. For example, let's say I get this edge ring and use Ctrl E, mark sharp. That will split it because of this edge split, since we are using the sharp edges, and the solidify will add thickness to it, and we only want the rim. So now you can see how it's extruding this in, just like that. And then with the bevel, then the bevel rounds off these edges and we can use about 3 segments, and we can also turn on harden normals. So now you can see what we have. Maybe we'll just make this a bit sharp. Okay, just like that. Then yeah, this here can be pushed up just a bit, maybe something like that, and we can I'm not going to worry too much about the bottom here, because it doesn't seem like there is a lot of detail. And let me come here. I need to add in I need to subdivide this. Let me insert this a bit, and let me see. We might need more subdivisions for this, so I need to select all the edge rings. So I can use Ctrl Alt Shift and select all these edge rings, and then I can go to select, and it's called select loops. Yeah, like that, and subdivide these again and to add more resolution. And then now I need to make them round by selecting these each edge ring, shift, and then use Shift Alt S and then 1 to turn them into perfect circles. How to do this all the way. Now let me first turn off all of these to make sure that everything is perfectly rounded. Yeah, just like that. I can bring this back. Now the reason I wanted to add that is because I need more resolution to add the that indent. So let's add it here. Just going to select these, push that in. Now let me first turn off all of these. With that pushed in, I can I want these edges to be rounded, so I'm just going to select that, use make sure that these middle ones are non-selected, use Ctrl Shift B, Ctrl B to bevel, to create a round bevel, just like that. I don't want too much resolution because we're going to have to clean this up to make sure that this is rounded. It's going to be pinched up around this edge, around the outer ring here. So let's see. let's try to make a loop running around this. So I think I'm just going to add an edge loop here. That way I can connect this to this, and let me see, spread these apart maybe. Still looks pinched up here, so we need a ring that goes around to reduce that pinching. So I'm just going to try completing this edge loop. And you can see how this is protruding out. That's what we're trying to reduce, I think, especially around here. I can select this edge loop, use Ctrl B to bevel it, and since we have this setup here, I can select this outer edge loop here, Ctrl E, mark sharp. That way I have some detail like that. There's a lot you can do to improve this, obviously, and maybe can even just use a mirror modifier. It should be above the subdivisions, so that you can focus on one side. I think this should be pushed out. Now, if I bring all of these back, this mirror should be before the edge split. Turn on the subdivision. There's a lot we could still do here to improve this, but don't want to spend too much time on this. We can close this here, and this bottom as well. So we are getting somewhere. We can add in the other stuff, and to make my life simple, and I think the design is usually also this way. I can split this so that this is is independent from the rest, and I can add some subdivisions here. And remember, any subdivisions you add in, you have to adjust it to make sure that it follows the curvature. And we need, actually, let me separate this into its own object using P, separate. Yeah, so this, I can apply the mirror, that way I can add The headphone jack, I know they usually not added anymore, but let's just add it for this one. And you can design it however you want. I don't even remember how it looks. The other thing I can do is just select these surrounding edges. Actually, let me just select the entire surrounding edges, insert. That way we have this edge ring. And since we still have the same setup, I'm just going to use Ctrl E, mark sharp. That way we split that as well. We can add in what would be the charging port. I don't know if I should add it in the middle or out here. So let me just, since we have edge loops already running here, I can add, let me just subdivide this. And again, you might have to readjust this mesh to make sure that it follows the curve nicely. I'm going to just insert this, maybe push these apart and then just pull that in. Yes, I'm going to add around these corners. So this is a Type-C charger, and I'm going to use 0.5. Subdivisions can be fewer. Insert, and then I think something like that. Can't remember. And again, I'm just going to select this edge loop, Ctrl E, mark sharp. So that is on the outside. So that, yeah, so that is like that. Now I don't remember what else we could add here. Maybe they usually, yeah, let's add a button, another button. So for that, instead of recreating a new thing, I'm just going to just select this side, and I use a mirror. Make sure it's above. Apply the mirror again so that I have this round edge this side. I'm going to just select that using Ctrl L. Actually, let me just select this, hit F, and insert and push this out. I will clear the sharpness so that this now becomes a button. And we can bring back the subdivision surface. There are going to be some pinching issues, but at this, you're going to be looking at this from a good distance, so it doesn't seem like that will matter too much. So I'm also going to push this out a bit, add back the subdivision to this. Okay, let's see how this looks. Is that, oh, we need some buttons up here. And for the buttons, I'm just going to come in here, just split this. Let me add an extra edge loop here. Maybe I think this is too large, so maybe I'm going to separate this top part from the rest. So up to around there, separate it using P, those parts. P by selection. Yeah. Okay, so now that this is separate, I can, because I want to add these buttons, I can mirror this on the Y as well. So let me just make sure that I have the subdivision for that. So this should cut through straight, and I can delete this side as well. That way we have this. I want a button here. So for that, let's do, I think if I connect this here and this here, I can just use Ctrl+Shift+B on this edge, and I should be able to add a perfect circle here. and hit F, scale it, and insert it again, and then let's use Ctrl E, and let's just separate this using Y, so that's its own object, and need to make sure that this is perfect circle. Okay, so we have our buttons. We might want them to be a bit bigger, so I'm just going to scale them on the X and Y plane, just like that. I'm seeing some pinching going on here, so I'm not going to worry too much about the topology. So I'm just going to select the surrounding faces, press I to insert, and still have some pinching, but now I can just connect these faces, and that should get rid of those pinches. It does introduce new topology, but I'm not worried about that since we're doing something simple. And we can also design this button a little bit better. Maybe just push it in just a bit so that it looks like buttons, and I'm also going to push this in so that we get rid of any gaps like that. Okay, so this should go this should be in the center of the world. Since we don't do anything with it except just rotating it around, I'm going to use instancing, so it should be in the center of the world, just like that. And I'll just have it in a collection called speaker. And now, instead of using this actual mesh, I'm just going to use an instance. So collection speaker, have that. It's going to be much easier for us to work with here. So, and now I can just isolate this, and let's see. Oh, UV unwrapping is the next step. Let's see, is there anything else? Yeah, we can apply the mirror and unwrap this. So UV unwrap. Let's use angle best. Perfect. UV unwrap this. We need, yeah, we can apply the mirror as well. Angle best, and I can separate this edge loop, maxim here, and also maxim here, unwrap. Perfect. And let's just, since we already have a seam here, I'm just going to use that to break up let's see. Let me just select it from here. Ctrl E to open this up here. Now let me just, perfect. Now this piece here can just unwrap. Yeah, the USB let me just come in here, select this edge ring, since it's going to be a completely different material, mark it as a seam, unwrap again. This here should also be a seam, unwrapped. Just set up some good UVs. And the inside here should also have a seam, and maybe this here, Ctrl E, mark seam. Alright, let me open up this as well, so perfect. So that's where we are. This button should also be opened, should be independent. Control E, Maxim. Okay, what else? I think that's the UVs. Now we can start getting some textures. I'm going to use CC0 textures or ambient cg.com to get some textures. I want a fabric for this area. So let's see, walls, orange, painted, material, special. Let me just search for fabric. Perfect. I think maybe this. Anyway, you have the chance to do it on your own. So let me just get this to OK. And yeah, let me look for some buttons. Buttons PNG. Not those. Speaker. Smart speaker? No. Yeah, these would do, but not. I want simple. Let me flat. Let's say flat speaker buttons. Let's do. How are they called? How are they? Play buttons. Yeah, this is good. I'm just going to use this, and this is also good. Okay. Yeah, let's create materials now. I'm just going to come in here. Actually, let me hide this, the one we're going to animate, this here, so that we can focus on this. So the first thing I'm going to start with a plastic material. Should be just simple dark material, minimum roughness, and you can add some clear coat. And let me add a light for the reflection, just to capture some proper nice reflections. And let's see how that would look from the camera. Maybe something like that. Okay. Okay, then let's create another material for the buttons. So buttons, just like that, make it darker, and let's assign it to the buttons. Control L, assign. It has to be darker and maybe a little bit more reflective, just like that. And we can bring in the icons. So just save this, drag this here, and this is going to be, so this is what it looks like. Let me go to the UV editor. We have 4 icons. So one is going to be, let me select the island option. So one is going to be for play. Another is going to be for, should be for mute. Another could be next, and previous. Maybe these should be next to each other, so this should be It should be play. The mute should be rotated just like that, and this should also be rotated. Yeah, and this is going to use. We're going to use a ramp, a color ramp. Change this to constant, and we just use a mix color. Mix color. So this is the factor. So we want the buttons to be have this connected. Oh yeah. So this is going to be black, and this is going to be white. Oh, we can just use the invert. Actually, if plugging it directly can also work as well. So that's good. So we have let me just scale them up. Also making sure that I'm changing the pivot point by using the period key to individual origins, so that they are all scaled individually, so that the icons are a bit smaller. Perfect. This ring here, let me add an edge loop here and use Ctrl E, mark sharp, so that I can split this. This way, this could be a light. So I'll call this light, assign, and it's just going to be an emission. Let's do something like that. Now, maybe these buttons could be a bit bigger. So let me just, how do I make them bigger? Let me just first scale this ring here, then this outer ring. Just like that. Now I can select them and use, let me make sure I'm in face mode, and use period key to change the pivot point to individual origins and scale that. I'm going to just get rid of this edge loop. That way I can, this next edge loop has space to go. I'm going to scale it out just like that. This can stay around, so something like that. Maybe the buttons might be too big now, but that's okay. Now we can start working on texturing this. So I already have the textures downloaded. So fabric, I'll just add that to my resources. PBR, paste, extract all. Okay, so now for this, I just have to set a new material, call it fabric. I'll use Ctrl-Shift-T, go to my resources, PBR, fabric, and just select everything, and look at that. I don't need the displacement. The UV map, let's do 10. And maybe we could rotate this UV, so maybe do 90 degrees, just like this, so that this is... Oh, we could maybe just have this at an angle. I don't know. You can do whatever works for you. So let's do maybe 20. Now, this pinching here is a result of where our seam is. And actually, I don't like this seam here. I'm going to remove it and have it here at this edge. Ctrl E, mark seam, and this Ctrl E, clear seam. So it can, why is this not clearing? clear seam, and this can be, and I'll also clear this seam, and yeah, I can just have a seam just there. I'll clear this, clear this, and clear this. So if I unwrap this, yeah, I think that's much better. Again, we might want to rotate this. Let's go in the modifiers here and see if we change the UV type, if that would help. You can see that reduces the pinching a bit. So if we set it to none, we get that. If we set it to keep corners, we get that. If we get it to junction stuff, and I don't know. Yeah, just find something that where you don't see a lot of seams, or where the seams are not too obvious. Like this, I think. Yeah, I think this is okay. From there, let's just change the colors a bit. I'm going to use our RGB curves here. Make this a bit darker. And this here should use plastic. So I'll just assign the plastic. It should be darker. And maybe now it doesn't have anything to reflect. That's why it's like that. Another thing, I want this surface to have some nice reflections. So what I'm going to do is use an icosphere, subdivide it, shade smooth, scale it up, enclose the entire scene, and I'm going to give it an environment texture. So I'll just call it environment, and just go to the skies, and let me see, what is this HDRI? I want an HDRI that looks like reflection. Let me download some HDRIs and see. I want a reflective like this. HDRI reflection. Yeah, with some nice reflections. Maybe this. The resolution is not that good, but I think, yeah, let's try this. See how it does. I'm just going to copy this. It needs to go into the environments. It needs to go in the environments map. So just select that, and you can already see how the reflections look. But now it's also part of the background. Okay, it has to be bigger. Just look at the type of reflections it adds. I think it just looks amazing. But I don't want to see it in the background, so I'm just going to go to the object settings and visibility, turn off camera, turn off diffuse. We only want it to see, it doesn't have to be even in the shadows or volumetric scatter. Okay, so let's look at this. I think it looks much better now. We can even make this surface a little bit more rough. So we're using the clear coat and the roughness for the reflection. So let me just bring this a bit there, and just like that. I think this area should also be, I should be using rough plastic. So this here, I call it plastic rough, and make it a bit reduce. Yeah, something like that. This also should use the rough plastic. Maybe not that rough. maybe no clear coat, but also not too rough. Just like that. And maybe the fabric could be a bit darker, but let's use about 10 so that we can see the textures. Now let me use a different fabric. I don't like this, so I'll go back and source something different from ambient CG. The best can stay plastic. We don't need the displacement. This can be 10. You can make it less stretched by adding a seam, unwrapping. Yeah, so that reduces the stretching, but I'm going to reduce the scale of the texture a bit. Now for the color, let's use hue and saturation. Bring the saturation down, just like that, and use RGB curves to add some nice contrast. But I think the fabric is too much, too scaled up. Let's do around there. Bring the strength, maybe, let me just put it at 2. I think I like that. Let's see, can we make this a little bit more rough with the math node on the roughness? Can make it more reflective. Yeah, I think that looks better. Perfect. Now let's see. Let's go to the compositor and also turn on the compositor here and add some bloom. So this would be glare node using the bloom. It should be, yeah, something like that. I think I want this edge to be more rounded, so I'm just going to use something like that. Okay, so we are done with the materials, I think. Now let's work on the animation. So let's go back to the camera view, bring back our speaker. Let's bring it here, scale it down, and I zoom in. So it's a simple rising of the object. So I'm just going to add a keyframe here, rise this up as it rotates. Also have to select keyframe for the rotation here. So yeah, we have something like that. Now we do need more details for the ground, so I'm just going to place this, and let's go back to the shader editor and just maybe play with the roughness a bit. I'm going to bring some grunge map, so let me come in here, let me add an image texture and just grab a grunge map from my resources. Grunge, maybe I'll use something like this. Let me use Ctrl T because I want to break up the roughness a bit. So I'm going to use a mix color. Connect this here. And use math mode. Just like that. Our lighting, since we scaled up everything, let me first change this into a wireframe, so that is see-through. So I'll go under viewport display, change this to wireframe. Let me just put it to bounding box so that it's not getting in the way. So what else do we need? We need the light to fade in the background, so we need to bring this closer. And since we brought the scale up, or since we scaled things down, yeah, I want to see some shadows. And then this light here was meant as reflection for this, so it doesn't have to be. Let me see if I hide it. Let's just make sure that can we create shadow maps light linking on this, so that we're only using this light should only affect the speaker. So okay, so because this is a collection, it's not working, so I'm just going to drag this, the original collection, and now this only works for this object. So interesting. Yeah, okay, it's not. So it does seem like light linking doesn't work for instances. So what we can do is just instead of linking the instances, let me go to the light again, remove the speakers, and just add the ground collection. Let me create a collection called ground. So ground, there's this rock here, and we will just exclude the ground. And now let's see the effect of each light we have. So Shift G. I see. So because remember, we have this object here that is adding the reflections to our setup. If I hide that, we don't see the back side. So now I think I'm okay with that being like that. Anyway, I'm just going to select this. It should be an emission shader. Just bring the strength down a bit, and I'm also going to reduce the color in this again, so 0.2, and make it a bit darker. We can set up some depth of field, target our object, and we can set up some animation. So this is pointing down, and as this rises, this could also rise. So a very simple setup. There is also some play with the focus. Let me see. Okay, so yeah, let's start with a very shallow depth of field and then just focus. Now let's create these particles. I'm just going to come in here, add a circle. Where is my circle? Yeah, add a circle. I need more subdivisions. Okay, just like that. I will then fill it and insert it to make a ring just like this. And this ring can just create particles. So particles, let's do a few thousands on the first flame. We don't want no gravity, so field force gravity 0, and let's we don't, let's see, under velocity we don't want any normal velocity. Let's look at this in Eevee for a second. So okay, so now these particles, if you want them to move, let me first go under the render and bring the point size down. To make these move, I'm going to add a force field in the center. So let's use our vertex. And let's go to the vertex settings. Let's try a point. Then it will just move on the outside and the particles are dying quickly. So I'm going to go to the settings here and make sure that their lifetime is longer. So let's see. Let me add. You have to just play with the settings and see what is working. Add some noise maybe, which makes the particles spread. Now if you add the flow, let's set it to 2, it makes the particles not move too far. I'm also just going to change the shape of this emitter just a bit so that it matches what we are seeing in the render. Yeah, something like that. And let's see, we can add some turbulence. So I'm just going to make sure, let me add turbulence force. So that's the turbulence. The size is too large. Maybe bring this to 0.1. You get something like that. The problem is these particles seem to be spreading out too much. I'm not sure if there is a way to limit that. Let me see if I use a negative value for the strength, it just goes in the opposite direction. Now let's make these renderable by just using, let's use a plane. Let's come in here, go to the physics, and we can turn off instancing so that we don't show instancer, so that we don't see the instancer, we just see the particles. Now to make them renderable, we can go to the render settings and change this to object, and I can select the plane Since we have a lot of particles, I don't want to use something that is too heavy. So a plane should be enough. And I'm going to just randomize the scale a bit and the rotation. Randomize that, set it to dynamic, and give it an angular rotation. So we have something like that. And it's going in the wrong direction. So let me just use a negative value for the vortex. Let's see, if we just affect rotation, they're just going to be in one place. If we, okay. So that's our spinning. We could add in some, maybe a drag force. See if that helps keep things in one position. Maybe, let's see. Let me add a point source, a force. This to pull back the particles. Let's use -1. Let's do negative point. Let's do -0.1 to counter the force pushing the particles away. This seems to be too strong. Yeah, so the particles now are rotating around the place we want them to rotate. Just like that. We can give this particle a material. And let's go back to cycles. This is going to be an emission. And we can make the colors a little bit different by using the particle info. So if we look at the edge, we can use map range, and since the last frame is 250, we can use from 0 to 250, and that should give us a range. Let me see if I can visualize this with different colors. So so the reason why the edge won't work is because they all have the same edge, since we emit them on the first flame. But if we continuously emit them, so from frame 1 to frame, let's say 250, you can see that they get different colors. And this can be parented. So we end up with something that looks like that. We can increase the point count. Let's try 10,000. It's going to be quite a lot. And let me also, since this is now parented to a moving object, let's also add in some object velocity, so that they have some upward momentum. Though, maybe let's not parent it. And let me clear parent, keep transform. Now, going to increase the turbulence force. Let's do 0.5. Something like that. Now let's use the same colors as they have here. So a nice range of blues. Like that. And this goes into the emission. That way we can control the power. This should be the color. Yeah. Now I like that this has some reflective pieces in the ground, like some reflective rocks. So I'm just going to come in here, look at this material and use a color ramp and try to create a mask for those. Let me use constant. That way I add in some reflective pieces. I'm going to use a glossy material and just create something like that, but these have to be swapped. This is a reflective surface, and we can choose other different pieces that should be reflective. Now there are other things we could do. We can go to the compositor, add some color correction. So I'll use a color balance, maybe and let's add some vignetting effect. So I'll use a shape, I think is under mask. That's the ellipse mask. Take a look at that. It should be with a height of 2, just like that. Use a blur and just multiply over this. And just have something like that. So the emission of the particles can start at frame 30 and end at frame 150, because that's going to be the end. That's going to be the length of of this render. So 150 for the lifetime as well. This have to continuously rotate. For 250 frames. Okay, we can start at the emission at frame 15. And it should go the other way. This should be +1 for the flow. Yeah, so that's this follows. And we can also have the camera moving around just a bit. Another thing we could do is add in some extra particles in the background. So I'm just going to add in a cube, especially in the background here. And I'm going to create a new particle system. Let me turn off the show emitter. And let's have a bunch of particles, maybe 5,000. And the source should be volume, so that they are emitted in the volume. They shouldn't have any gravity. So that's under field weights, gravity is 0. They also get the spinning and everything, but that's okay. I don't want them to be too. Maybe they could be close to the camera as well. It doesn't matter as long as we make them look good. So I'm going to add another plane. Give this a different material. So this time this is going to be a diffuse. Let's use a glossy. Mix with let's mix with a translucent material. So if I take a look at just this, but we can also mix this with a transparency, because I want this to be a spherical. So I'm going to use a gradient. Now make sure this is spherical. Plug this in, and this should use object mapping, so that is in the center. And I'm going to use a ramp. Let's set this to. Let's flip this. Should be something like that. Switch these. So that's going to be our particle. I can select this. Where's my plane? I have it here. Let me call it particle 2. There is also particle 1. So this instance is the particle 1. So render as object, and that will be the particle 1, and it could have random rotation, dynamic, and rotation could be. So you can see we have some particles in the background, just like that as well. Let's see how this looks in the render. They can be smaller, so I'll just do 0.05 for the size. And now I'm going to give this a render and see how it comes out. And thank you for watching. If you want the project files, they're going to be on my Patreon page and my Gumroad page. Links are in the description.